So then we are back with the modern understandings from the time of the second tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the holy cities of the Hamashiach laid waste from many centuries. Reading from Yeshayahu the prophet also is very important, reading a portion of Daniel, because there is a section where then later the trade then links up with the military. Very controversial point, because in a lot of democratic governments there is a very specific gap from what trade is doing versus what the military is doing. But it's not only from the viewpoint of technicality, as far as what the military provides versus what trade is provide, but is truly the driving force of trade with the strength of a military line of work. In many countries this is no longer used, because this was used many years ago and decades ago. The person in the military should exercise the understandings and also the practiced exercise and used those in the civilian world, giving the best example as they were during the time of servitude. So then, what has made our nation big as it was, and truly it is yet? But then, let's take a glance at the background of our country and truly understand the many troubles they faced during the many years of trade and market crash, and so many trials and tribulations that this nation had to face. And then during the 40s, with the bombardment of Pearl, amazingly this country has taken leadership back then, and from then on the economy truly developed. Now then, many years after the war, then the U.S. economy and the industry was also greatly benefited from the practices exercised during the military service. So it's undeniable that the services provided for our country during the war, those practices were greatly used in a civilian world, and it had grown tremendously. So then, since it worked before, we understand that this method shall once again become a great factor of development. Now then, why is it the relation with the trade and military becomes once again strong? What drives the situation? Firstly, there is the point of militarism, coming a point where our nation is going to get so badly disorganized that the leaders, the responsible leaders of our country, they're going to simply pound on the desk and they shall say enough. And the practices will change. Amazingly, because Daniel the prophet is giving a very important clues of the strengthening of the sections of Daniel 11, and becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, in order for us to understand these strengthening, a person must become a bit acquainted with the Hebrew culture of the time. The Hebrew culture has ways that transmits what the information is doing, but not only through writing, but through the emotional side of what those words mean. So there is obviously a very important section that explains a very strong, powerful relation with the kingdom of the north, but then later on speaks of the system that was severely weakened, that the Bible, this scripture uses the word rejected, or then despised. It's not despised as a country. So let's make it very clear, because Daniel the prophet, he was not for destroying nations or talking down nations. He never did. As a man of the divine, representing the character of the divine on the earth, he would never under any condition downgrade any portion of a ministerial role of any country. But he pointed out that there are some weak country or weak countries that should become part of his writings. So he used the fact of this particular nation weakened, but then later on re-strengthening. But the point from the weakest point and the point where he strengthens, he takes the momentum from the military until it reaches a certain objective. So there is no doubt about it that this country of ours, though very disorganized, and disorganized for the viewpoint of what other nations are doing, the Asiatics what they are doing, and the many technologies available, and what this country is doing and prioritizing, truly is not matching what the heart of industry is in the Pacific. Nobody's saying how important is or not so important, only saying that they are priorities. They should set higher standards, but these unfortunately are being neglected. So then, regarding the trade and the military, how is it the trade is going to have military lines in it? There is only one way and one way only for the answer get answered, and there is military reliability. It's the only way they can change the parameter, but not as individuals working for a private sector. Is the private sector adopting military standards in trustability, timing, show up on time, being reliable, being helpful, in order for these trades become core center of every entrepreneurship in this country. And with this in mind, very easily comes then sections of the military flowing through this great action these great ideas in work and performance. Later on, I'm going to evaluate more of these particular sections because people in our country have a desire for a light duty military style. The society is very prone for these particular types of military influences. When it's nice, organized, inexpensive, it can be done in a certain way with a high flow, those are very much welcomed. But I want to evaluate more of these next time, so please stay tuned, much more coming up.